Director Joe Carnahan is kind of like the American Guy Ritchie. He sticks very close to his wheelhouse in delivering cops, robbers, and gunfights within a heist film, which are typically then filled with a bunch of high-profile actors. This time, he's recruited Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Yeun, Teyana Taylor, Sasha Calle, and Kyle Chandler for the Netflix action thriller The Rip. So does this deliver the intense action, or should we call the popo and have this whole production put away? Upon discovering millions in cash in a derelict stash house, trust among a team of Miami cops begins to fray. As outside forces learn about the size of the seizure, everything is called into question, including who they can rely on. So the concept for this is quick and simple, but the story isn't. We follow a bunch of Miami police who work undercover and are tipped off about this massive rip, what they call the stash of money that they're going to confiscate. Now, once there, tensions rise and suspicions grow, which is when the whole thing gets a bit twisty, but in an energetic and frenzied way. The beginning of the movie, it's a little chaotic and hectic. Scenes are switching rather quickly, some of which is executed creatively as we watch people answering a barrage of questions, but once the question is asked, we're not necessarily seeing the same person answer that we had seen previously. This creates some energy, even a little bit of stress, but it's a choppy way to get introduced to characters and then a story that we've not yet been introduced to. Right from the start, there's an antagonistic sort of tone between the members of the special team that we follow. Some of it's just playful sarcasm, but other times tensions are a little taut under the surface. Now I appreciate how this builds mistrust early on, even if we don't really know why we shouldn't trust someone or believe one over another. The main drivers for the story are Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they use their long-standing friendship and dynamic to create an explosive duo. They look like they're close within the department, but actions and conversations don't totally support that facade. They both portray very jaded and rough officers, like they've seen way too much in their careers, but they don't have enough time or money to retire, so they just continue to battle the bad guys day after day. Like many Carnahan films, the dialogue is quick and gruff. It's not necessarily very witty, but it can be humorous, most often with a dark and even mean twist to it. And the conversations, they come across very naturally, much like a David Mamet script, where the words chosen for the characters aren't all fluffy and over-explained, but instead rely on previous context for recognition during the exchanges. And I think this flows much better, and then it allows for a more engaging story immersion. For a movie that's just short of 2 hours, there wasn't really any moment that I felt the time. It starts with fast dialogue and conversations, and then doesn't really slow down until the very end. Some moments are quieter or patiently unveiled, but there's still this suspenseful unease that's just permeating the scenes. Almost like the quiet is more unnerving than any explosive action we're going to see. And then talking about the action, when the crap hits the fan and bullets start to fly, we can feel the intensity. The camera shakes as automatic gunfire rips through walls, vehicles, and really anything else in its path, creating the perception that we are firing the weapon and it's shaking us from the recoil. And when I say it's shaky, I'm not saying it's like a shaky cam where the visuals are difficult to determine. It's just this rapid, small movement to illustrate the power and the ferocity of the weapons. And I said at the beginning that although the premise is simple, the story isn't. And that's because of the inherent mystery that's just interwoven throughout the narrative. Pieces of the story begin to not add up, meaning that something isn't on the level, and some twists are then going to be unveiled. And like any good thriller, there are many opportunities the storytelling uses to introduce a ton of doubt. There are some moments that may be obvious and give portions away, but other areas still remain obscured to keep the tension going. I do think that a lot of character development, though, got put aside in favor of diving into the intensity. It's not like the characters are just complete strangers, but we really don't know a bunch about them to make us feel a deep connection to them or feel overly concerned about their well-being. I mean, it's not like I was rooting for any of their demise, but I also couldn't tell you much about their life aside from the job that they're currently on. Outside of Damon and Affleck, the rest of the main cast worked to build out the sketchiness and uncertainty the story relies on. Teyana Taylor and Catalina Sandino Moreno, they don't have hugely prominent roles, but they do have the appropriate level of skepticism that's needed. And the way they work with Damon creates a power imbalance that's believably dubious. Yeun is kind of an enigma here. I believe he's the most junior member of the team, so he's most likely to follow protocols to the letter. The interactions that he has with several of the others, usually involving massively uncomfortable silence, it ratchets up the anxiety that's used to the story's advantage. Sasha Calle is also an excellent addition to the cast. Playing this character, we're supposed to feel both suspicion about and then sympathy for. I mean, while she's fiery and not some wilting flower, she also conveys this innocence with her eyes. Maybe she's innocent, maybe she's in on everything. I just love that she works to add this cautionary element to the entire thing. Almost like the fool in a play who's the only one who's spouting any sort of wisdom. I had a bunch of fun with this. The interactions, combined with boisterous character portrayals and fierce action, make for an enjoyable and somewhat complex storyline. The dialogue is fast-paced and written to feel like real conversations, and the plot builds in enough mistrust to lose confidence in the integrity of each of the characters. Despite having a rocky and jumbled introduction to the film, the rest falls into place relatively quickly, producing a suspenseful and aggressive story that may not be wholly memorable, but is exciting in the moment. There's no sex or nudity, ton of profanity, and then a lot of violence. I give The Rip 4 out of 5 couches. And it's not phenomenally excellent, but it was a ton of fun. What are some good action films that you've seen lately? Let me know what you've been watching in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.